Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert alongside the one, the only. You know him, you love him. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. He's back. Father Joe Grimaldi. The Father Joe Grimaldi podcast, proudly supported by Hoot and McInerney Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. Hoot believed that true luxury should play a bigger role in your life, not just behind the wheel of your vehicle, but also about and out in the world. Should make your life more effortless, preserving your time and energy for what matters most, like your family, your church. To accomplish this, Star Lincoln is committed to the owner experiences designed to do just that very thing. That's the Star Lincoln way. Look, there's no greater luxury than our time, and Lincoln provides us with an effortless way to service our Lincoln. Just schedule a time and place convenient to you, and they'll bring you a loaner vehicle when we pick up yours. Stop on by Hoot and McInerney Star Lincoln and check out the new Navigator, the Aviator, the Corsair, Nautilus, and of course the Lincoln MKZ and the Lincoln Continental. Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. It's the home of the Star treatment. Action. We get emails.
Oh, I hope so.
We get emails every day. And today's email that I picked, handpicked for you, Father Joe Grimaldi. How do I continue to be a Catholic when my family has abandoned the faith? And I can only tell you that I have a number of friends who are living that situation as we speak. In other words, well, I'm not going to break it down. I'm going to let you break it down because I'm sure you see it more than anyone else.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to quote Jesus Christ, okay?
He's a good guy to quote. Go ahead.
I have not come down to this earth to bring peace, but I have come to bring fire. And what he's trying to say is this, particularly in the early days of Christianity, when someone who was not Christian and wanted to become Christian, he had to contend with family members who did not agree with him or her, and there would be enmity between himself and his own family members. And as Jesus says, even in that the gospel passage, it'll be mother against son, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, mother against daughter-in-law, daughter-in-law against, and so on and so forth. There would always be this fighting that goes on. And that still goes on. I noticed recently where I was working with a couple who are preparing for marriage, and it just so happens that the woman in this particular marriage was not Catholic, but is preparing to become Catholic. The family is not happy about that at all.
So she's going through the RCIA.
Yeah, so she could become a Catholic.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is this, that very thing does exist today in our world. Now, where does that put the person who very devotedly is practicing his faith and against all odds because everybody in the family has changed their minds or have never been strong Catholics, and so they go their own way? Well, the person has to be very strong. That's all I can say in his thinking and his faith. He has to make sure to say extra prayers. He has to make sure to practice it in the best way he can. And the only thing he can do, and I'm using the word he for, I don't want to cause, how should I put it, any complication in this, just the person who's involved in this is going to have to go out of his or her way to give good example, to be very strong, because it's going to be difficult for him to practice the faith when everybody else doesn't.
He's going to have to explain each and every Sunday that he's going off to Mass while the rest go about doing what they're going to do.
Having bagels and lox.
And,
Okay,
or, on their social media devices,
Sure.
okay? And basically proclaiming, I have no interest in this activity that you're about to involve yourself in, mom or dad. So go off. Have fun.
Yeah.
See you when you get home. What do you want for breakfast? Does that bother you?
It's reality. It can't bother me because it is reality. Huh? Would that it be better? Yes, but if it can't be, it can't be. There are people that struggle with that kind of a situation in their family life. I think you know them and I know them, but they do the best they can to practice their faith. Now, when you're doing that, it's almost heroic what you have to go through, because it's very difficult not to take part in a family gathering or basically, though, when you think about it, the church is amazing in that it has so many options. You can choose to go Saturday afternoon. You can go Sunday morning at 7. You can go Sunday morning at 8. You can go at 10, 12. You could go 5 on Sunday night. There's so many options that people have that it's not as difficult as you might think for someone to do his own thing. And if he wants to go to Mass, he can find a way to go to Mass. There's enough options that are there for him.
Looking at the church in the future down the road, I just thought of this. What about if you just went to Mass once a week? You have a 7-day option there. Once a week. And
Instead of keeping holy the Lord's Day?
They've already moved it back one day.
Not really. If you look at the beginnings of Sunday are really on, don't forget, our faith is based on the Jewish rituals.
Right.
So the eve of Sunday is Saturday, and that's why it was easy to move it to Saturday afternoon. And so that it's the beginnings of the Sunday celebration.
But it was shocking to many in 1962.
Of course it was, yeah.
1963.
Yeah.
But moving the church forward, you don't ever see that happening.
I'm not that great a theologian. I certainly will admit
I think you
that.
are, but
no.
But you have such an ability to take theology and put it in a common sense frame that this podcast is all about.
Well, I'm going to say there are two kinds of people.
Yeah.
There are people that are very deeply related to God and to Jesus, but don't necessarily agree with all the rules and regulations of the church as it exists. But then there are the other kind of people that feel they have to do exactly what the church says you have to do. So, what you just said is amazing to me, because it does exist, believe it or not. Today, there are people that do go to Mass on Saturday or on Thursday and say they have fulfilled their weekly obligation. Is that something that's acceptable to the church as it exists today? No. But who am I to judge them if that's their relationship with God? And so that it's like I'm almost jumping from one thing to another.
That's okay. Yeah.
But basically I'm thinking of something else that's also related, I think. We know, too, that there are many people that are stuck in a situation of marriage where, because they had made a mistake 50 years ago and now they're with a second husband for the next 49 years, as it were, and they still feel guilty about having remarried without an annulment. Well, yes, the church says that that person needs an annulment before they can marry, even though their first marriage took place 50 years before that. But the church says, no, you need to have an annulment. Now, there are many people that say, well, listen, I'm going to Mass, I'm going to receive communion, I'm going to church on a regular basis. Well, the thing is this, they're doing what they believe they should be doing. Now, that's not what the church is teaching, but they have chosen to take that route. And again, how can we judge them?
Right. There also may be a backstory that they don't want to share. You know, the reason why they got out of their first marriage.
Sure.
And the second one was the right marriage.
Correct.
And you're both Catholic.
Right.
And you're both going to Mass.
Correct.
But when you go deep diving into the rules and regs, you shouldn't be doing that without.
Yeah.
And I think most people just go, no, I'm a good Catholic. All right? I know there's a rule that I'm not following, but I'm in love with this human. We're great people. We're Catholics.
Right.
So, no offense, God forgive me, but I'm not going to go through the annulment process.
Yeah, and the people don't know that. Usually they don't know that. But there are people in the pews who have been married before, but now are happily married for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
But they're not going to go advertising that, and a lot of people don't know that.
I already stated it, that it's almost like that's our business. It's our business. So getting back to the rest of my family, couldn't care less what dad or mom, or sometimes the kid. Maybe the kid. How about that one? Kid goes to Brother Ice. All right. Parents were Catholic, but they don't practice. But they still found the opportunity to send their child to a Catholic school. All of a sudden, the kid re-embraces Catholicism.
I have encountered a situation where they were not Catholic, and a sophomore at the school came up to me and said, I want to become a Catholic. What are the chances and how can I go about it? Well, the thing we could do is make sure that he gets to an RCIA program. How do we do that? Well, first of all, we establish where he lives, and so that we could get him a ride to the meetings or whatever the case might be. Now, this kid is very sincere. He's a teenager, so it's not as if he's a little babe without knowing what's going on. He wants to be a Catholic. His parents, they don't care, but they're not Catholic and they're not interested, whereas he is. So we try to do everything we can to help him achieve his goal. And as I said, you first of all try to find a church that's close to where the person lives so that there would be a convenient way of getting him to the preparation to become Catholic.
Do the counselors at that school, that Catholic high school, are they prepared to deal with that when a student comes to them and says, I'd like to learn more about the Catholic Church and become a full member?
Yes, I think they are prepared for it. Mm-hmm. They seem to be people that are up to date on their religious practices, and they're able to guide people of that sort.
What do you think motivated that student?
I think what motivated that student was the masses that the school has on a regular basis, both all school masses as well as individual class masses. Maybe his friends seemed to be happy participating in the local parish, whatever the case might be. You know, converts come about because of knowing someone. I don't think it's just out of the air. It's not like God is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I want you to be a Catholic. He uses other people to attract people to the Catholic Church or to the faith. And so, you know, it's other people that have given him good example. It might be something as trivial, if you want, as, well, look at those guys. They have a lot of fun playing basketball in the local gym together, and that's because they're all part of that that gym. They were all part of that church. I think I want to be part of that. It could be something as simple as that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be sophisticated theological workings, okay? God works through human beings. And if these people are able to give that kind of an example that this young man, or woman for that matter, wants to be a Catholic, well, then we should try to help them achieve that goal.
It's got to be difficult for that son to come home to his parents and say, I'm investigating becoming a Catholic.
Oh, I'm sure it's very difficult. But, we're living in an age now where even parents have heard it all, okay? And I don't think they're shocked with anything.
I would hope.
That seems to be a good thing to be shocked with.
I was going to say, I would hope they'd go, wait a minute, you're telling me, tell me more. I'm curious, where did this come from? And maybe the student becomes the teacher.
In many cases, that's the case. Now, for example, very often in confession, I will get a young person. I'm not speaking about a teenager, but someone who's maybe 10 or 11, and they'll come and confess that they can't get to Mass on Sunday because he or she has no one to take him to church, because the parents don't want to. So the only thing I could say is this: besides getting help for others to bring him to church, I would say that the child himself, I'm speaking about a 10 or 11-year-old, should go up to the parents, because these are Catholics that I'm talking about now, but they just don't go to church, and say, Mom, Dad, tomorrow's Sunday, can we pick a day when we can go to church together? Now, who knows? That might be an awakening for the parents, that their son is reminding them, or their daughter is reminding them, to take him to church, and it's a lesson that he or she is teaching them.
Wow. That's a hard one for me. That makes me sad that a 10 or 11-year-old would say, I miss Mass because I didn't have a ride.
Yeah.
Because my parents don't go to church anymore. That means the motivation for that child was in school.
Yes.
That he was, or she was learning that in school. And it sounds to me like that child would be keeping that to his or herself, instead of confronting the parents. They've got plenty on their plate to be confronted with anyway, right?
Yeah, but by the same token, if they're confessing it and the priest suggests, maybe it's a good idea for you to ask them to take you to church.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not such a horrible...
It's still sad for me to imagine that.
Well, here's another thing, too. Times have changed.
Yeah.
Years ago, we lived in neighborhoods where you walked to church, you walked to school, because everything was close by. You didn't worry about the dangers that exist today, of the stranger danger, they call it. So it's a whole different world. Today, people live in the suburbs. In order to get to church, automatically you go to the car first to get you there. So kids who are 10 or 11 can't just do this on their own.
Yeah.
Years ago, the church was down the street.
Right.
They would go and they would do what they had to do.
Ride your bike. I rode my bike.
Yeah, whatever the case might be.
Yeah, so. I served 6 o'clock Mass, got on my Huffy, and huffed and puffed my way all the way down, knocked on the rectory, woke up the priest, and said, it's time to go, bro, let's go. In conclusion of, how do I continue to be a Catholic when my family has abandoned the faith, or their faith? Boy, that's a tough one for me to...
Well, because you're dealing with something that is different for every age group.
The tough part was the kid in confession. Yeah. That's the one that I'm going to think about the most.
But age-wise, when you are 50 or 60 years of age, I think you might be able to handle it better, huh? I think it's when you're really young that you don't know exactly how to handle it.
Yeah.
But if you're 50 or 60 and you're the only one in the family that really wants to go to church and practice, it's difficult. There's some emotions involved. And who knows, after a while, the wife or the husband, depending on what we're talking about, would say, I'm going to go with you this week. You never know. Things happen that way.
Well, and they also can go the other way, where
Yes.
it's like, it's Saturday night, it's 5 o'clock, the kids are ramped up, and you're leaving me with the kids to go to church. You follow that logic.
Of course.
It's really a curious discussion, worthy of much, much more. I don't think we solved the riddle here necessarily.
Oh, I don't think so.
And I don't think we'll ever solve
no.
it, but I don't encourage anyone that may be the lone star in that family that goes to Catholic Church on a Saturday or a Sunday to go start banging pots and pans going, I'm running off to church now while the rest of you just do nothing. No, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that to me seems to be what we should all practice is common sense, okay?
Right.
Just because we are doing something that looks like it's worthwhile and good, we don't have to advertise it. We just go our way slowly.
Thank you so much. Great podcast. Enjoyed that one a lot. You left me a ton on the plate to think about. Thank you. It's always powerful to sit across from you and get your
Thank you.
Your nuggets. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert. You have been listening to the Father Joe Podcast. We will see you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
Look forward to it. Thank you. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.